Sometimes reaching an agreement on common standards is half the battle. Failing to communicate with other teams may lead to frictions and conflicts. Okay. For instance, many data teams invested heavily in cloud data warehouses, data ingestion platforms, and SQL-based transformation tools in recent years. Then they started to advocate that everyone should, from now on, use SQL to solve all their analytical problems. Okay. Following this desires, one may think that we no longer need distributed clusters such as Dask and Spark, or trying to standardize solely on SQL, we forget other teams. What about data scientists and quantitative researchers? SQL is not enough to solve their problems. The same is true when you need to serve data for consumption by APIs, process automation, and many other interesting use cases that leverage data for more than reporting. Python would be a much better choice for those use cases. Okay. It's just a source code. Okay, so alignment with other teams. I think that's one of the core principles. Well, it is one of the core principles of DevOps is collaboration. With enabling and developing collaboration between all of the teams and making sure that you're also, with regards to architecture and design decisions, if everyone's talking to each other and saying, like a good example is if you've got front-end developers, back-end developers, and an ops team, and you're not in a DevOps environment, and there's all these walls between these teams, and they're all very siloed, you're going to have like the API team going, we're going to write an API, this is going to be the HTTP contract we're going to present you with, and by that I mean sort of like the endpoints, what they're going to look like, and the data that you need to send us, and what we're going to give you back. And then the front end team kind of go, cool, that's great. And then they write that back end in Python or whatever. And then the front end team go and pick React and they start talking to that API. But they haven't communicated the fact that the API is going to put validation limitations on some inputs. Like you can only provide us because of limitation in, let's just argue, because of a limitation in Python, we can't take more than 1024 characters in a key within a JSON document or whatever because of the library that we're using. And if you didn't collaborate on that, the front end developers are going to give their end users, the ability to key in 2048 characters in an input field on the website and hit submit, and it's just going to break. It's a very simple, obviously convoluted, contrived example, but it's just basically, and then to continue it, and then your ops team are kind of like, hey, cool, we're going to build all this CI stuff, and then the back-end team throw the Python over it, and they're like, oh, we've built Windows servers. It's not really, we can get it working, but it's not really the ideal solution. We thought you were going to be writing it in .NET. Of course, again, contrived example, these things don't happen really at that scale, at that level. However, alignment with other teams and around architecture and design decisions, they're sort of the same thing, that those two things there really, in my opinion, because DevOps is about breaking down those silos and communicating and saying, what problem are we trying to solve? What's the overarching problem that we're trying to solve? What kind of tech is available already on the market that gets as much of that work done for us? Which of them do we think we can support and we like and have got maybe even open source options, but with a bit of enterprise support, or maybe a full enterprise stack, so that we know there's a company behind it. It costs a lot of money, but we can throw tickets at them and they solve things for us, and so on and so forth. And you eventually start cherry picking some of the things that you like, and then you put them down on a table in front of everyone, and you kind of go, "Is this what we're happy with? Do we think this will do it?" And everyone collaborates, and then you start going. Once you've then done that architectural design decision stage, you're then aligning with everyone, aligning with other teams to use their own wording here. You're then aligning on how does that thing get implemented? How do we automate this? What are we going to do for documentation, testing, deploying code reviews, so on and so forth. And then you start collaborating even further and coming to an agreement on all those things. And then that's when tasks, literally specific tasks of getting things done, start actually getting defined and start getting handed to people, and story points start getting assigned to them, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I agree with both of these things, and I think that's what they're trying to say here is you've got to make sure that you're meeting everyone's requirements and expectations. You can't just close doors, make a decision, and then open the door and just throw it out the door and close the door behind you and be like, that's what we're doing now. It's purely SQL, and then these other data scientist teams are like, that doesn't work for us. So I agree with that. Yeah, that makes sense.